Every time. All right. Well, it's good to see everybody again. Nurse Stokes, Mr. Lovemore, Miss Greenerme, and our guest. Glad you are taking time of your evening to join us today. So this is the fourth session of Marketing and Customers Bootcamp. If you missed the other sessions, don't worry, or you need to review again. Like Monica said, there's a recording and you'll get copies of all the presentation materials as well. So let me just share my screen, get us set up here. Okay. Monica, can you let me know if my screen is, you're able to see my screen?
It's perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. And just so you know, when I look away, it doesn't mean I'm trying to ignore you. It's just I have multiple screens going on. So I tend to look away just to make sure I'm focused on the, I have the right information on the slide and pointing out some key information. Okay. We went over the housekeeping. This again, thank you to our host, Congress Heights, as well as our sponsors, DC government. Just a little background about me, you can read that later, but you're welcome to email me any questions at any time. And along with this boot camp, you're eligible for free one-on-one sessions. And this is the link to my schedule. So feel free when you get a moment, maybe after you digest everything and after the Labor Day holiday, my calendar will be open until the end of November, if I recall correctly for this. Okay, but feel free. And it's of no cost to you. Okay. We did our intros already. So here we are. This is bootcamp number 2, marketing and customers. First session, we covered the market research. Session 2 and 3, we started to dive deep into the marketing strategy as well as understanding customers. And because those two topics kind of weave together, we did a little bit of both in both sessions. Tonight, we're going to kind of pull all that together and give you some steps for how you start writing out your marketing plan and go into execution. And I've added a special topic just on branding. We should be out of here about 7:30. So just let me remind you that this is a big topic. So please be mindful and don't forget to look up the links that are provided as source material on some of the slides, as well as we're going to be posting some handouts and downloadable documents in the chat. Okay, so today just going to do a little recap, go into branding, and then go into the marketing plan and wrap up into next steps. Little disclaimer, this is not constituting legal, accounting, investment advice. Those areas of business are governed by very strict requirements. So this is general guidance. And just so you know, there's so much information on the internet for a lot of these topics. We try our best to find the most credible, the most up-to-date for you. But just know that unlike previous years, there's just more information at your fingertips on the internet. Okay, let's do a little recap. Anybody want to start with a reflection? I think Ms. Stokes is the only one who's been here. I don't know if Nurse Stokes wants to say something to reflect, as she's been digesting a lot of material. Let's see if the nurse wants to say something. If not, that's okay. I think you're on mute.
So I don't know where to begin. It's so much in my brain. From it's important to study your demographics for your customer. It's important to focus on their needs, not your business product. It's that's definitely part of the transaction, but it's the customer that's the focus. That there's serious data out there that studies the age of the person and what they are interested in and how different products will cater to different groups depending on where they are in their life. So,
and how much is the data, Ms. Stokes?
It's
Oh, that's Monica's trick question. That I have nothing to do with that question. Okay.
Okay, how much is it? I know it's free.
That's it right there. There we go.
Yay! See, Dr. Walker, I'm paying attention.
All thanks to your DC government putting your taxpayer money to work. The DC Data Hub, that's data specific for the district, and it's broken down by ward as well. So yes, that information is free. So please don't pay for it unless you absolutely have to. And it's a higher level of statistical analysis and stuff like that. And also the Census Bureau has a lot of information that's free, but very good.
And also, I just want to point out that something that stood with me and the young man who has his business, he was discussing love and helping people in the community. And so they say when you have purpose, that you will be successful. So that stood out to me being in the healthcare industry. So
right. And in the PowerPoints for, I think, the last session 3, I added 3 books as references that talk about purpose. So I know not everyone is a big reader. I'm not a big reader, actually. I actually have a learning disability, so reading is very, very difficult. But the books I posted, you can easily find them on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. Not very high price, but they're some of the leading books in business about purpose. So when you take a look at the slides, they're posted there. And in today's session, I will add some material on additional books on marketing. And those of you who were not with us on session 1, I posted some free resources on marketing textbooks, many of them used by colleges and universities across the country, that are all free, but they're all digital. So that makes a difference. But just wanted to make sure I give you as much information based upon everybody's learning styles and where they are in their business development. And for those of you who are new to business, that's fine too. I think entrepreneurship is probably one, if not the only opportunity area you don't have to come into the field with some sort of background and experience. Whatever you're walking into, it will add value. So don't think you need to. I used to have students who think they needed an MBA to be in business, and that's not the case. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Nurse Stokes, for that reflection and recap. That's very good. So I'll go over, again, this is a routine I have. I'll go over some quick things we've covered since last session, just to remind you again. My basic definition of a business, this is what I use no matter who I'm working with, whether it's a small business startup to some of the larger nonprofits that operate in the city. So my definition of a business is an operation that provides a valuable offering to a customer or customer groups in exchange for payment. Key things about that definition: that the business is an operation, meaning it's legally established, it's licensed, insured, it has organizational structure, policies, systems, etc., that allows it to run efficiently. And you don't have to have everything to start up, but you got to know that as you grow, you got to look back at the operation of the business, which I think Mr. Lovemore talked about, the setup. And so he's right on target with that. And notice in our definition, we don't say a business provides a product or service. We say a valuable offering, because a valuable offering consists of both a product and or service and a customer experience. And that together has to be valuable to the customer, not valuable to you, but the customer has to deem it valuable, meaning it is solving their problem, which is either a need or a want. A customer could be one set of customer or a subset of customers. So that's one of the most important things I can say in your market research. Apart from learning about your industry, you need to dig deep on the types of customers that might be interested in your product. Sometimes we limit ourselves because we're just not thinking broad enough. And then in exchange, you collect payment. If you're not getting payment and you're not getting into profitability, then you don't have a business, you have a hobby at that point in time. So it's timely and efficiently. Just know profit is the result of serving a customer value. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, this business is going to operate in a very volatile external environment, and it has its own internal environment. And those are things that as an entrepreneur, you being the owner, you have to manage because they will influence how well your business operates. And so that external environment consists of the market forces, culture, government regulation, technology requirements, industry and competition. So that's why the research is critical. You must do your research and you must maintain a system where you're constantly updating your research. Okay. Our definition of marketing, we took it from the American Marketing Association. And even though it seems rather elaborate here, marketing is an activity set of institutions and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for clients, customers, partners, society at large. The key thing to remember from that marketing as a concept is about making a profit by serving the needs of the customer. The core of this definition is the value part, okay? And so marketing is about being customer oriented in its focus, not just oriented about the product or oriented and just about selling, like Nurse Stokes said. So it's about the customer. And the more you know and understand your customer, the more likely you are to be successful with your business. And believe it or not, some of your favorite brands that you like to buy, they have studied you beyond what you would like them to know, okay? And so they use a lot of data and a lot of information. And some of us, sometimes we think it's annoying. We might get an email of a survey, or we might get asked a question at a store. That's them trying to get to know us even better, know our habits, what our likes, our dislikes, where we like to go, where we like to be. Over time, that's how detailed you're going to get with your business. Okay, we talked about the marketing strategy, which overall just means what's the game plan that you're going to reach your prospective and current customers, okay? Prospective customers are those who want to turn into customers, and your current customers, you want to keep them coming back. You've got to have a means, you got to have a strategy, an approach of how you're going to get in front of them at the right time and with the right message that attracts them to buy from you. So you're not going to find this handout anywhere. This is my flow for developing a marketing strategy based upon what is practical. A lot of times you're reading a textbook or you read a template and it's very elaborate. This is how you're going to think, and I'm just going to encourage you to think, because if you start with the research and you use the 5 forces tool, remember it's not elaborate, you just write out bullet points. You find whatever you find in the research is important. You're going to write it on the 5 forces template. And from that, you're going to start brainstorming what's going to be the strategy. Okay. Then you're going to review the marketing mix and the types of marketing. And we gave you a long list of a lot of your options. And you're going to start to review that and consider what is going to fit with your business. And then you're going to go back and do a deeper dive into your customers. So you're going to do a customer persona, and you're going to do customer journey mapping. After you do that, then you're going to refine and decide on the marketing strategy. That's going to be key because we're going to reiterate that when it comes to actually putting the plan together later in this session. Okay. Also on Tuesday, we went over value proposition and customer fit. So again, I gave you another template. It's called the value proposition canvas. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to have a fit between your products, the gains and the pains that fit with the customer's jobs and their gains and pains. Every customer has a job to do, and trying to get that job done, whether it's at work, whether it's in their personal life, they have pains or they have expected gains when they actually buy a product to solve their problem. You need to have an idea what your product is actually going to do for them, what pain points it's going to try to alleviate, and what gains, what expectations are you going to meet in your customers. So this is a nice little 1-pager that allows you to start jotting down those notes. I see, does somebody have the hand raised, or am I just seeing a good reaction there?
Yeah, good reaction. That's it.
Okay, all right. Mr. Lovemore, okay. I didn't put Mr. on front of your stuff. I hope you didn't mind that little ad lib there, because right in my mind, you're Mr. Lovemore, okay?
All right.
Since you the next biggest brand coming out of DC.
Yes,
Just
yes.
remember my face when I come to buy something. Don't act when you at the the book signing because you're on some cover of magazine. Don't act like you don't know me now. Okay, remember me, because I'll act. That's when I'll act out. Other than that, I'll be real chill. Okay, but anyway, so then we discussed the customer persona again. A nice little one-page document just kind of shows you the kinds of information you want to try to collect about your customer. And by making a persona, you start to make it real. Then it's just not, oh, the group of teenagers, age, those who are 15 to 18 and how many of them live in DC. You you can get a picture, you can put a name, and you start jotting down information about them. You're going to build this over time, but you need to start. You got to start in order to write the initial marketing plan. But we got a question there.
Yeah. So is this like so like Abigail Williams, like that's not a real person. That's like an avatar, I should say. Like
Yep.
that.
Yep, you can think about it that way. You can think about it. Some people call it a custom profile, but it is probably one of the leading techniques that used nowadays. So instead of just looking at just raw demographic information, you try to personalize it so it becomes real. And you're going to make as many as you need. So however they reflect, how many customer groups. So if you have a set of products that are tailored for women or men or teenagers or certain, if Northwest DC, then you will construct the number of personas you need for you to understand who you're trying to sell to. Great question. Yeah. Okay, so on Tuesday we also ran over the 6 roles of the buying center, because this is to remind you that the person who buys your product or pays for your product or actually is the one using the product, they might be completely separate people. So this indicates the 6 different types of people you might have to reach out to in your marketing strategy. So there's the initiators, the influencers, deciders, buyers, end users, and gatekeepers. Most times small businesses think, oh, I'll just market to the end users. No, they might not even be the ones paying for it. So just keep this in mind when you start thinking about who are your customers. We also covered the customer decision journey. Sometimes this is also called the customer journey mapping. And so we went over the pre-purchase phase and then what happens in the post-purchase phase. And that each one of these phases is a different mindset for the customer. So you might have different activities or what we call touch points in which you're trying to connect with your customer. Okay. We also talked about last time the user or customer experience. Again, this is another area of many small businesses or entrepreneurs neglect. So here you're just trying to think of these 7 factors that might influence how a customer experiences your business or product. Okay. So this helps you figure out what kind of tweaks you might need to make to your process, what kind of tweaks you might need to make to the design of the product. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions at the moment before we jump into our main topic for this evening? Anybody in the chat? Monica?
No, but Dr. Walker, we have 1, 2, 3 new.
Oh, okay.
If we want to do a quick intro.
Yeah, do it. Go ahead.
The guest, they are hold on, I'm gonna read it. Mr. Bridgewater with Minority Tax Pros, DMV. They provide bookkeeping, tax planning, and tax preparation for individual families. And just learned about the webinar this afternoon in the print edition of the Washington Examiner. And logged in to see if he could pick up any general tips regarding marketing and client acquisition. And then Shantae, thanks for joining. If you can introduce yourself, tell us about your business if you have one, and or if you don't, that's okay. You're still in the right place. And how did you hear about us and what are you looking to learn? Okay, Shantae may be having technical difficulties. Brianna?
Bry.
Oh, Brianna, I'm sorry.
How y'all doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. I am 26 years old. I live in DC. Me and my mom and my little brother have a catering company, and we're trying to get it off the ground, basically.
Okay,
Great.
great. You're in the right place. And Miss Hardy?
Hello, everyone. I wish I had knew about this sooner. I could have joined the previous ones, but nonetheless, I've heard about this through a friend. And so I'm here now. I have a nonprofit organization that is centered around gun violence prevention in the Congress Heights area with Peer the Streets. And I'm looking to learn more marketing strategies and how to reach more clientele through social media.
Welcome and thanks for the intro, everyone. If you have any questions, just feel free to either raise your hand using the reactions at the bottom, or you can put your question in the chat. And also, please keep yourself muted just so we don't have any background noises. And if you'd like to turn your video on, we'll be glad to see you. And just to let you know that this is being recorded so everyone can watch the video later. I'll also drop the link to the previous recordings where you could find them from this session. I'll drop it in the chat. Sorry, Dr. Walker.
No, no problem. Great. I'm happy that everybody's joining us this evening, taking time of your day. Okay, so since we talked a great deal about value proposition last session, I went through some of my older documents and I had developed a value proposition worksheet. And so Monica, you have this I emailed this to you, so you can drop this in the chat for everybody. So this is a nice quick worksheet to help you jot down your ideas. So what are the features of your product and service, but what are the benefits? Because your value proposition is going to convey what are the benefits to the customer, meaning how do you want to solve their problem, their need or want. And then in the template, it actually has a little formula to help you in writing your value proposition statement. So that's a little added benefit we're providing you today. So feel free to take a look at that when you get a chance. Also, I wanted to give you a little cheat sheet. A few years ago, 2016, there was a Harvard Business Review article on value proposition. One of the major consulting firms in the United States, I think it's Boston Consulting Group, did a whole, no, it was Bain & Company, I'm sorry, did a whole lot of research about value, customer value. And so they classified 30 major areas of value. And so I find this a very useful article to helping you give ideas exactly what does your product and service and experience provide the customer. So please, when you get a chance, download this article. This is the graphic of the 30 different types of value. Your product or service and customer experience may provide more than one value, more than one area of value, okay? And you can have more than one areas of value. And those areas of value can have more than one different types of customer groups. So this is very, very useful to help you narrow down what exactly does your product, service, and offering provide, okay? Just a little added slides here to piggyback on that. Because when you start doing your research, you're going to find a term called marketing channels. It was not the focus of this particular boot camp. This is something we did, I think, last year's boot camp when we did a whole series on retailing. But I just wanted to introduce a concept. When you see the term marketing channels, and it's more important in retailing, but it has application in other business types and industries. It's referring to what's called the distribution channel. It's the ways that your product or service get from the producer to the consumer. And here, this is where it becomes critically important. You have to determine if you are the producer or you're just part of the process of getting the product to the consumer. And so you got to consider all the activities between how your products are distributed through each channel. And this makes me think about the AMA's definition of marketing, because the definition of marketing focuses on value. So part of thinking about your marketing, you also have to think about what's the value of how you're delivering your product and services to the customer, because that's going to be part of the customer experience. And so the distribution channel is made up of a couple of segments. There's the logistics, there's the facilitation, and then there's the actual transaction. For some of you, for your business type, there might be particular ways each of these areas are handled in your industry. So that's why that industry research is going to be so critical. One thing I do want to emphasize here is about the transaction. COVID-19 has made both negative and positives on each of these areas of the distribution channel, but most critically, I think it would be the transaction, because many customers now will expect to have a way to pay and collect their merchandise from you or the services electronically. So unfortunately, this means you have to invest in technology in your business. So whereas a couple of years ago, I might have said, oh, you can phase something in now, it's no longer an option. You have to have a way that somebody can pay online. You have to have a way where they can communicate how to deliver, or they're going to pick it up in your store if you have a store. You have to have a way for them to track a package if they're getting it delivered to them. You got to have these mechanisms in place, because it's just now expected from most customers. Okay? So your distribution channel, again, it's about getting the product to the customer. And so this whole channel consists of the manufacturer, there's the wholesaler, there's the retailer, and then there's those who offer services to the customer. And this is where the logistics, facilitation, and transaction comes into play. For some of you, you might be the manufacturer, the wholesaler, and the retailer, or the service provider. But you got to know how this flow works for you, because the customer doesn't want to hear if you have any supply chain issues, which is another unfortunate impact of COVID-19, as well as the war in Ukraine and some other factors. Because if you're not getting your raw materials from the manufacturer or the wholesaler, that might impede you being able to deliver your products and services. So you got to understand how this works in your industry, and then how is it going to work in your business. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? I know I ran through that really quickly. Like I said, it was not the focus of this particular boot camp. We do have a complete recording of it, and I provide some additional information at the end. There's some additional slides on that. But any questions about just distribution in general? Monica, anybody saying any questions in the chat?
No questions in the chat. I did drop the documents in the chat, everyone.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, special discussion tonight is about branding. So again, we're going to go back to the American Marketing Association. They also have a definition of branding, and they describe it as a brand is a name, term, design, symbol, or any other feature. Remember, the word feature comes back up, that identifies one seller's goods or service as distinct from those other sellers. So the key part you need to understand is that it has to be something that identifies the distinctness of your product, services, and offering, differing from everybody else in your industry or your competitor. Okay. Most people think of brand, they automatically think of the logo. That's only one part of it, but it has to make you distinct. Okay. So a well-known mantra of brand is more than a logo. Your brand is how others will perceive you. So it's everything. It's the look, feel. When they see your logo, when they see your packaging, what will it evoke? When they see a product similar to yours, they think of you, or they just think of some other company? So your brand is how others perceive your business. A brand is almost entirely the result of how audience feels when they come across your business. So this is why it's so critically important you really understand what your product, service, and experience provides to your customer. Is that the solving their problems, meeting their needs or wants is going to evoke an emotion in them. Is how, so they're going to have a feeling about you. So when you think of Amazon, we automatically think of package. We might think of a package on a doorstep, but we think, oh, I'm going to get it in 2 days. That's Amazon's strategy: customer service at all costs. Amazon didn't start making money until a couple of years ago. All this time they were running in a negative because they were building a system. It doesn't matter what you can order on Amazon. They were just concerned that you found what you wanted on their site and that they could get it to you as quickly as possible at a price that you don't mind. That's their entire strategy. So that's why Amazon has now become a brand that almost is the brand that we go to when we think about online shopping. Not to mention there are thousands, millions of other companies that offer online shopping, but we use the brand of Amazon to signify the entire industry. That's how they have created their brand. Branding is now the set of actions that you take to build the brand. How do you create the experience? How do you convey the message? And how do you do all of that consistently so they associated that message and feeling with your business and products and services? Some of the brand components you want to think about is the brand archetype. Sometimes people call it the brand personality or character. So we're going to talk about that a little later. And then we have the brand voice. So your messaging is going to have a certain tone to it. For some of you, it might be more humorous. Some of you, it might be more serious. Others are fun. Others are more inspirational and motivational. So you have to think about how this all is going to play together. Because you can't have where your voice says one thing, but the look and feel and experience of your business says something else. The customer might not know, oh, your branding is off. They just won't buy from you again. You might never know the exact reason, but they just don't feel good about it. So you got to think about all of these things. And again, your branding is going to evolve over time. So some other elements of the brand. Number one, your business got to have a mission and a vision. We talked about this earlier in the marketing regarding the components of the marketing plan. You got to have a mission statement at least, and at some point you got to develop a vision for your business, because you might not think about it, but the About Us page on many websites is one of the most visited pages on a business's website, because people want to know what you're about, because they want to identify with you. And so that helps them to say, oh, is this person trustworthy? Or is this business going to be reliable? Is the product going to be of quality? They're thinking about all of that when they're looking at your website. So you got to have a mission and vision. You want to have brand guidelines. This is just going to be a document that reflects your business goals and strategic position, but you're going to reflect it through all of the visuals that you're using as part of your brand. You're going to explain what the logo looks like. You're going to explain the colors you're using. You're going to explain why you place it at certain, parts of your website, or what your stationery is going to look like. All of that is part of the formula for your business being successful. Of course, a lot of the branding centers around your logo. So that's going to be the face of the business. The website is the digital real estate. Unfortunately, I do not think a business can be successful without a website in 2022. It's just what it is. Okay. But luckily, the cost of websites have decreased significantly. I think the lowest amount I think I've seen is about $20, $25 a month for a basic website. So it's doable, but it's how people are going to find you. Yes, social media will also be an avenue, and many younger businesses, my younger folks, they tend to only have a social media account. That works fine for a certain group of customers, okay? So you got to think about what are all going to be all the assets you need to express your brand. Some additional assets you might need to consider are the old-fashioned business cards. And yes, we still hand out business cards, okay? You might need brochures. It might be digital, but you're going to need some sort of handout that you can share with others about your business. It's going to be, of course, the product packaging, the event flyers, the uniforms. All of that plays a part as to part of the assets to express your brand. Okay. Any questions so far? Anybody got any thoughts? Okay, a little pop quiz question then. I just randomly chose 4 logos from like a logo template website. And I want you to just take a few minutes, take a minute or so, and tell me what you think about these logos. Which one of these stand out to you? We're not thinking about if we're going to actually buy any of these products. Just looking at the logos, just tell me what you think. I'll give you a minute to look them over.
Number 1.
That's Mr. Lovemore. He's on it right already. Okay. Someone said logo 1. Who else?
I think number 2.
Number 2. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter said
Number
shop.
4.
Number 4. Okay.
Number 4 for me too.
Well, yeah, 3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay. All right. So anybody want to tell me why that particular logo stood out to you?
Because it
Because
incorporates.
I can look at the logo and tell exactly like what they're marketing.
What and which one did you pick?
I like the bottom 2, but I'm specifically talking about the clothing shop one.
The clothing
and then
shop.
I-
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I say number 1
Number 1. And Mr. Lovemore, why did you say number 1?
because you can tell how the plant is incorporated with it, so you know that it had to do with gardening, and that's
Right.
the brand name garden. So
Yeah. Good one. Anybody else?
I said number 4 because it has bold colors and it has stars.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody else? That's a good one. I didn't think about that one. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So guess what? You're all right? Because you will customize this based upon, who actually your customer will be, what's the brand gonna be. But you all pointed out something, that the reason these are the logo templates is because they are fitting for, number 1, their industry, and it's something about them that makes them pop out. So the garden, yes, incorporating a plant in a very unique way, added to the visual. For the clothing shop, number 1, the name of it was very clear, easy to read. So you just knew that's where I would buy clothing. For the trucking company, yes. Colors, the red pops up out for the white and black. The stars adds a little touch to it. So you all right, but you got to have some thought behind it. So I'm not saying not to use a logo template to start off with, because sometimes you just got to start where you got to start. But you got to put some thought behind it. And this is just simply saying, whatever you use, you got to build on it, and it has to help you convey the message about the business. Okay, very good. All right, so let's have a little discussion about brand archetypes. For most of the marketing experts and branding experts, we describe about 12 brand archetypes or personality, whatever terminology you want to use. And it was developed a long time ago by a psychiatrist, Dr. Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, who believed that these were the models of people behaviors or personalities that we can apply to business. And so the 12 personalities are the number 1, innocent, number 2, sage. Then you have the explorer, the outlaw, the magician, hero, lover, jester, everyman, caregiver, ruler, and creator. Now I got this text from one of my favorite designers. I follow his newsletter, so I put his information here. So please subscribe to his blog, because the way he describes the branding and how you go about it, I just like it's very clean the way he presents. And some marketers can get really obtuse with their examples. But these are the 12. Your business will most likely have one of the 12, but sometimes you can have a little mixture. But this goes back to one of the your roles and responsibilities as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you have to make a decision. You just can't pick all of them. And number two, you can't pick a personality just because it's based on your personality. But be clear about that this business is a separate entity. And so the branding has to fit with the value proposition. So don't think you could just copy yourself and that'll be the business. Sometimes that can work, but you really need to dig deep. That might not fit with your industry. That might not fit within your competition analysis. That might not fit within your target audience. So you have to think about it. So let's go through the 12 types. So number one, we have the innocent. So the innocent kind of stands for being pure, unadulterated, just like nature. It has a bit of a air of simplicity and authenticity about it. It has a positive personality, quite optimistic in its outlook. So this is usually going to be affiliated with those companies that are all about the goodness. Okay. The sage is the seeker of truth, knowledge, and wisdom. So they're more in tuned about sharing information, sharing knowledge with their customers. They strive to seek valuable information, but also sharing it with others. Okay. So a lot of educational institutions will have a sage brand personality. The explorer has a thirst for discovery. And sometimes that discovery is often to connect with nature. And so this is an entity that might be associated with travel, meeting new people, going to new places, doing new things, exploring other cultures. They're going to have the explorer brand. The rebel, or sometimes the outlaw brand, depending on what author you look at, is all about non-conforming. They're about breaking the rules, seeking freedom, doing things their own way. The magician, the one who wants to deliver a transformative experiences. So they make the impossible possible, okay? And some of the larger hospital systems that do like a lot of research on cures of very difficult diseases and conditions, sometimes they have a magician brand because they're just making what people might not think is possible. The hero brand, they take on the symbol of courage and a source of inspiration. So sometimes there might be an overlap between magician and hero, but the hero is all about you can do it. Together we can make the world a better place, that kind of mentality. The lover brand is all about relationships, people, and of course, love. And so some of the products that are based upon romance will take on the lover brand personality. The jester is all about having fun, living life in the moment. So they're going to be a lot more about color and having fun in somebody's life, or even the type of products they might offer. The every man or every woman demonstrates the virtues of being an ordinary person. So, the average Joe, they celebrate the average Joe and Jane in terms of the products and services they provide. The caregiver is just that. They're the ones who are always looking out for the other. So you often have brands in which they're providing products to help people feel better. They might be even protecting them. So you might have security companies that have a caregiver brand. And then you have the number 11 is the ruler, powerful and dominating. So they're all about having the self-image that they're the best of the best, and they sell to the best of the best. And they're all about making you feel that you're the best of the best. And then lastly, you have the creator. It's all about innovation and creativity. And so I'm going to go right back for a second. If I go back to the example here you see some example of some of the brands that fit the different types of personalities. So I want to hear some of your thoughts just by hearing those very brief descriptions of brand personality. What are you thinking might fit your business just with that little bit of information you've heard? And you get some keywords here, but tell me your thoughts on seeing this.
I say hero.
Why would you say you're a hero brand?
I guess like someone that could, make change or save others or
Okay.
impact others.
Okay. impact others. So you're thinking your brand is more hero and not the caregiver? There's no wrong answer. I'm just pushing your thought process.
Yeah. Well, yeah. See, now,
Challenging, right? Challenging.
yeah. Now
Anybody
with
else?
all of them,
So we got one hero. Anybody else have thoughts? So why would Google be a sage personality? Ms. Stokes, were you going to say something?
I was gonna comment that the obvious was actually caregiver. But then I was thinking, hero, I don't know.
Yep, you definitely got something to decide there. Again, you're not going to think about your personality. You're trying to think of what's the personality of the business. So yes, caregiver might be obvious, but you could be an everyman or every woman, right? Because you're trying to take care of everybody. No matter if you're sick, you're just another person who wants to live their life. You might think about the sage because you might have an educational focus to your healthcare business, whatever that may be. And so when you're thinking about the branding, you really have to dig deep of where you want the business to go. It's not just an automatic thing, just based upon what products you might have now. So I just pointed out Google. I don't know if how many of you have actually read their mission statement. They have a really brief mission. I don't even know if they publish it anymore, but it was something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, to share and organize the world's information. That was it. That was their entire mission. And if you think about that, they're a software company because the Google search engine is a software, it's a piece of software on our computers. And that's exactly what it does. It just helps us find information. And that software program just organizes the internet in such a way that we just can type a word in, a question in, and it provides us all this information. So they're all about knowledge, even though they're a technology company. So you really have to think about what's the value your business is going to provide your customer or Google customers. Anybody else have any other thoughts about that? Does this make you think? You could just raise your hand as a reaction. Okay. Good. All right. So let me add another layer to that. So you have your personality, you have to have your brand assets, you have to have a logo. It has to have a voice, right? In terms of the tone, the kind of the vocabulary you're going to use to express your message. I just want to highlight that color is the other part of the psychology of branding. Okay, color plays a major role because colors are affiliated with certain feelings. So you've got to be mindful that your color choices are consistent with and enhance your brand personality. So let's go through a couple of them. So if you have a predominant color in your logo or your brand, let's say if it's in the yellow family, yellow tends to be about warmth or clarity. If you're no more in the orange family, orange is probably the friendliest color of all of the colors in terms of from a branding perspective. But you got to be careful with orange because men and women tend to like colors differently. And orange is one of the colors that's not really highly ranked or either the men or women. So there's been a lot of studies about how colors break down by gender and by age. But you can see here, there's some very successful companies that have used orange. Red is all about excitement and youthful and bold. Also, though, red can also mean danger. So you have to be careful how you use red. You can see, I think one of the most successful ones to point out here would be Target with the bullseye, as well as Lego and Nintendo have been long time red logos. You have the purple, which can be affiliated with being creative and wise, imaginative. Also, in some studies, it's been associated with power and royalty. So purple is not often used. It's not a whole lot of brands that use purple, but a fair number. So it has a little bit of a challenge being used. The other thing to add to that, though, men tend to not like purple, but purple and lavender tend to resonate very highly with women. So you got to think about the masculine femininity type aspect from that for if you're going to consider using purple. Blue. Blue is the die-hard color for trust and being dependable and exhibiting strength. This is why a lot of major corporations use blue, particularly the banking and finance industry. If you look at them, almost all of them have blue because they're trying to exude that they are trustworthy. Okay. Some big names there, of course, Dell Computer. You see a lot of some IT companies. There's you got HP. You got American Express. To bring a fun company that's bringing an aspect to blue, it would be Twitter. And you can see some other ones would be IBM. Okay. Green. Green can give the impression of being peaceful, calming, soothing. It is also associated with sometimes mostly nature or growth, and also can be affiliated with money in that respect. So sometimes it's not only just health, but also could be meaningful wealth. So there's a fair number of products with that. You can see some with animal or a healthy vibe would use green, like we got Whole Foods, we have Dear John, we have the Animal Planet, okay? And then lastly, we have gray, which is balanced, calm. Gray could be a little tricky because it's between black and white, and so it could come off as being neutral, and sometimes it can come off as being dull. So you have to be very mindful of how you're going to use that. White tends to come off as being clean and pure. Black also can come off as being powerful and distinct, as well as maybe luxury or expensive. But again, if you're going to use gray, white, or black, you just got to be really, really careful with that because they have some dual meanings with the coloration. So any thoughts about color and the use of color? Just to know, this is just an introductory to it. There's lots of information on that. But what are your thoughts on color? Did you know this about branding?
Yes, I read about it. And then the colors that make you hungry when they together.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so if you're the hero brand, what color are you leaning towards for your brand?
I'm gonna go with the blue.
The blue.
Yeah.
Love more. What color is your brand? What color is your logo now?
It's black, white, and red.
Black, white, or red?
Nah, and red. So the
And
letters.
red. Okay.
Yes.
And why did you choose black, white, and red?
I just think that the red symbolized like the heart,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I was, for love.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So now you might entertain blue?
Yeah, for something else.
For something now. Okay, but so you're gonna stick with the red. Okay, that makes sense. You're gonna go with the love part of it. But you might can think about what's gonna be the more part of it, because you are loved more. What color would be associated with more if you're gonna go the hero route? Because remember you said you might think about the hero brand.
Yeah, so I do all the colors. I do the whole emotional guide.
Okay.
Just for it's more in the cover everything.
You can do that because if you notice up here on this on the right side here, you do have some logos that are multicolored. It can be done, but I must warn you, you have to really think deeply about what the business is about, the value to the customer. Are they going to buy something with a red logo versus are they going to buy something with a blue brand? And if you're going to choose blue, how is that related to Love More? What's the value that Love More offer? This is why you got to be really customer centered before you get into the design. And I must say, how you start off is may not be what you end up. So Ralph Lauren started, I don't think he even started with a color associated with his brand. He had an image, which was the polo rider on the horse. I think the color for him came later, but he did choose a dark blue. I don't know if you know of polo. It's a dark blue and I think in a yellow. They're a couple of colors. Tommy Hilfiger is blue and red because it's all about Americana. He's the same Americana as Polo, but Polo took a more luxury approach. And he has a very deep blue than than Tommy Hilfiger. So yeah. You got to look at your industry. See, red works well in the clothing industry as well. So you got a lot of choices there, but this is just to introduce to you the thought process you need to go through in building the business and a brand. Now, if you're not interested in building a brand, that's fine too. But brand strategy marketing is an option to think about for your business. Right? Anybody else have any thoughts on this, on colors and the emotions? Monica, anybody in chat? We're good? Everybody's good? Everybody's trying to mull it over?
Well, I was able
Nobody-
to take a lot from what you said to Love More because my colors are still the same, black, red, and white. So
Yeah. Okay, I see your logo. You got it up there too. Okay, so for your brand, you have a lot of excitement. Is that what you're rooted in, or are you rooted in the black part of it? What's the primary color?
they're all about the same, but
I think you just went off. You just went on mute just now. We didn't hear your last part.
the primary color is probably the red. Yeah.
It's probably the red, or you gonna think about it.
It's red.
Okay. So you're all about excitement, and your business again is what?
It's a nonprofit organization. It's originally centered around working with youth girls, just and women, just kind of like trying to promote financial literacy, education and training,
Okay.
resource, things of that sort.
I thought you were gun violence prevention. No.
Yeah, I said initially, and then
Initially.
now
Okay.
yes,
You've expanded. Okay.
correct.
So the red for you might be the boldness of all the different areas you're going into. You have a lot to think about because nonprofit industry is a whole different way of presenting as well.
Correct.
We got some thought to do there. Okay, all right. You gotta be careful with red and violence though, because some people see red and they see blood. So you gotta toe that line there. This is why the Red Cross has literally a red cross. And again, we're thinking about this in isolation, right? We just think about the logo part of it. We're not thinking about the messaging part because you might have the right tagline and the right promotion on your website that it all comes together. So there's no wrong choice per se. It's just, you just got to have a thoughtful choice and then you have to execute on the choice. But okay. Anybody else want to add before we move on?
Don't see any comments.
Okay, great. All right, so let's go over a little example to think about again. So we had some chit chat about ourselves. So I added this example, Apple. the outlaw architect. Remember, Apple is essentially an IT company or technology company because they're both in hardware and software, even though they started out in hardware predominantly. They are an outlaw because they changed the rules of the game. They produce different kinds of computer hardware and software, and they connect with their audience by sharing their desire to push boundaries in the world of technology. So this goes back to our early discussion on purpose. So Steve Jobs, his one desire was that everybody's going to own a personal computer. That was back in the day. And when he made that statement, it was a foreign statement to everybody because back then computers were only owned by corporations. It was literally the IBM that took up the whole room. And they, I think it was like Stanford University, government agencies, and a couple other places that had a computer. But look at some of their advertising and how their branding has evolved throughout the years. So this is their logo history. And you can see they started out with a black and white. And then they moved to a colorful motif, right? Kind of embodying everybody, but they were about breaking the rules because technology companies back then, I think IBM was the big moving force, and they're blue and white. They're very uniformed in their in the way they introduced and branded themselves. This is a advertising, I think early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. But if you look here, look at the header for this advertising, high technicolor. That's all it says. That gives us, Ms. Stokes, I don't know if you remember from our example of the Tesla ad from Tuesday. This is all the ad says because it's highlighting the different colors that the computers come in. At the time, no one was manufacturing computers with different colors, okay? And then you look down here, this is like a couple of years ago with the iPhone 12. And it was, they were highlighting one of their features on the phone is the camera, but they're indicating that it's so good, you can literally make a movie with just the iPhone. And they do have people who do that. But so they're using a white logo, simple, it's clean, but it breaks the rule. But this time the brand is really established. So they can almost do anything with it, But you can see how the way they are is so deeply rooted that we don't even notice it anymore, that they're an outlaw brand, because we just think of them there as the norm because they have just surpassed everybody in branching out and being so different that by the time the iPhone and iPad came around, they had really dominated the industry by then, right? So this is a great example to keep in mind as you start thinking about what your branding is going to be about. All right, so we went through the question of, what does everybody think their potential brand will be? So now, in the last 10 minutes, we're just going to wrap this up. So these 4 sessions, we went over a lot of information. So these are the basic components of the marketing plan that we talked about earlier. There is a sample template that's being posted in the chat. Again, there are a number of templates. I used to be really, stickler for which one you should use. They're all fairly the same. They all mostly have this same kind of content. Some have a few other additional sections in it, and some don't. And then some just use different terminology, but rest assured, it all hints on the major areas we're covered. So here's what you're going to do. Number one, your plan is going to focus on an alignment, okay? So this is the reason why you're going to have to include the mission and vision at the beginning of your plan, because it sets the tone. And then as you're starting to write your plan, you want to make sure the strategy, the value proposition, and then the marketing goals and objectives all are helping the business accomplish its mission. Sometimes when you don't include the mission in the document, you can find yourself going off track and not even notice it. So I use it as a technique in every document I write about a business to include the mission and vision, just so I can have a double check to make sure everything's in alignment, okay? Now, this is what you're going to do. From this point on, here's your little roadmap. And I chose imagery where it's like an up and down motion, because you're going to go through a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. in trying to put your marketing plan together. It's not as going to go as smoothly as you would like. And if it's not going smoothly, you're definitely on the right track. So just keep that in mind, okay? So your starting point is always going to be the research, 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 research. And just like we talked about in session 1, your research is going to be about the industry, the product category that you're in, your competition, your location, because that's going to be tied to the demographic, and then as well as the psychological features of your target audience. So that goes back to the customer persona that we were talking about, okay? So you're going to research, research, research. Now the key about the research, you have to set a time frame. You got to have a time frame that you're going to do research, and then you're going to have a time frame that you're going to develop a plan, because you can spend all year just researching. You got to have a deadline, okay? If you don't, you'll waste a lot of time and money, and you got to get started, okay? So you have all your research. From that research, you then have to determine, okay, what is important for your business? That means out of all the information you found, what's the pertinent negative and what's the pertinent positives? Like, what is going to be the opportunity that you're going to be taking advantage of? And then what are the threats to you that you need to be mindful of in constructing your marketing plan? This is where you're going to start brainstorming the ideas, when you start extracting the information that's going to be important to you. Here's a key you have to remember, and I'm going to add this to the slide. Whatever market research you find, you have to save it. You can bookmark it. If you're doing a lot of internet research, you can bookmark it so it's on your homepage when you look at your whatever search engine you use for your business. But more importantly, download the information. So if it's articles, if it's a report, download it, because it's probably going to go away over time. And you want to be able to look back at the information you use to construct your marketing plan. The application I use to save information, number one, it's called Pocket. And so it allows me to save the link as the source of information of any articles or websites that I'm using. But also, if I think it's important and I'm going to use it in my marketing, I simply print the article directly to a PDF and save it on my computer, okay? So those two things you can use. You can save the link in an app called Pocket, and there's a mobile version of it as well. And they have a free model, so I haven't paid yet because I haven't hit their threshold. I am the cheapest when it comes to starting a business, but I haven't hit their threshold where I have to start paying. I've been using it for years. And then two, I'm now in the habit, if the article is really important, I will literally print it out to a PDF and save it either to a Google Drive or my Box document folder, okay? So you get the research, you determine what is good that you're going to use to develop your marketing tactics, what negative information you need to be mindful of. You're going to save all that. Now you got to go into the decision-making phase. Okay, you got to determine what are going to be the goals and objectives of your marketing plan. What is the reason for the plan? Is the plan to increase the number of paying customers? Is the goal of the plan to increase your brand awareness? Is the goal of the plan to increase the number of leads that you convert to paying customers? You need to identify the purpose, the goal of the plan. And here's the tip. Go to the marketing sales funnel that we gave you and use those different levels of the funnel as the guide. Which one of those you're trying to increase or decrease? And it can't be all of them, okay? You can't, you got to be really focused. If it's more customers you need to acquire who are paying, remember, it's only a customer when they pay, then you need to say that. If you are in a business and you've got paying customers, but they end up requesting a refund, you might want to be looking at how do I decrease the number of returns, because that's the customer saying, yeah, I thought I wanted you, but now I don't. So you have to think about that. So go to the marketing sales funnel, look at each step of the funnel and say, what is going to be the target I'm going for, okay? Next, You have all your research in front of you, right? You now wrote out your goals, at least drafted. Now you have to identify and start writing things to paper about the plan. You're going to write up what's going to be the product or service that you're promoting in the marketing plan. Because remember, not every marketing plan is including all products and services. And if you are including all your products and services, you need to say that because you need to write out each one. You need to write out the target market for each product and service, right? And this is where you're going to insert the customer persona as an insert. And then you need to write out the value proposition for each product and services, particularly if you have different categories of product and services. So this is where you're going to use the value proposition canvas and the value proposition worksheet. You're going to use that to help you to construct your value proposition, and then you're going to insert that into your plan. Now that you have the product, the target market, and the value proposition that you're going to promote, you need to determine, okay, what are the action items that I need to get done, the actual tactics that I need to get done to accomplish the goals and marketing strategy. So you're going to go back to your goals, right? And so let's say you have a goal to increase the number of paying customers to 100 customers per month, right? Notice I have a quantitative information included there. Now you have to write out what all you need to do for those to get those 100 customers, whether it's I need to revise the text on my website. I need to come up with monthly ads for social media. I need to come up with whatever it may be. You need to write them out, each step you need to perform to achieve the goal. And you're going to have to write next to it the timeline, the budget, and then the metrics you're going to measure for each step. Okay. Now, once you do that, you're going to review it and refine it. Because the first time you write it, you're going to look at it again and have more ideas. So you got to give yourself within the timeline that you said to develop your plan, you're going to review and refine. Because one of the things you're going to find out, your budget is going to be tight. Okay. If your goal is just to increase your social media presence or your followers, you need at least a few $100s a month. About 500 at least per month. That's just to increase the number of followers. That's not even converting them to customers. Okay. Because you got to pay for your advertising to be promoted at a regular rate according to that social media company's algorithm. So you got to think about what's your budget. If you only have $100 per month, then you need to write a plan for the $100 per month. And you need to be very mindful about it, because then you got to do more free stuff than paid advertising. You might have to contact more friends and families and because they might be influencers. You might have to go to more events. Luckily, with COVID, we're opening up more, right? You might need to have a pop-up. But again, if that pop-up is part of the action items, that also has a cost. That's going to be part of the marketing cost. So be very, very realistic about the budget you need to achieve the goals you write at the beginning of the plan. Okay. All right. Once you get together and you have that template, because remember, you're writing all these out in separate documents. Once you have the template, now you just cut and paste what you need and put it in each section according to the template. Now, remember about the template. It's only a template. You can change it. If something is far more sophisticated than where your business is right now, then leave it out. If you have more information in that section than the template has, then you add it in. You can adjust the template for how you need to adjust the template. Okay. Now, I've added one more thing here. The action items. Now, I had developed several action item plans for business plan, marketing plan, community engagement plans, whatever the case would be. That action item is probably the most important next to the timeline and the budget. And so I'm giving you an example here of how you can write out your action items. So here up top, you would put your goal, whatever that may be, increase the number of paid customers, right? Per month. And so the outcomes is, what am I going to measure? I expect 100 new customers each month. That's the outcome I'm going to. See, the goal is to increase the number. The outcome I want is I want 100 new customers each month, right? Okay, so what actions do I need to have to get that done? Okay, number one, I need to revise the website so it has the new value proposition. I need to come up with new ads for social media. I need to come up with a monthly informational post for social media. I would write out each action item on each line. And then I'll put a deadline that I need to get it done. The lead role, because most of you are small business owners, it's just you. You would just put you. But if you're contracting out to another service, you want to include that contractor, or you're working with a partner, or you have employee, you want to put the other people who might be associated. The measurement, you want to say how will you know this task is complete? You want to state without the, it's complete when you have the folder full of the social media ads or whatever the case may be. And then you put the resources needed. Sometimes you need more resources than just money. And so if one of your roles is to have the website revised, then you might need to make sure you have confirmation of your domain. You might need to make sure you finish your value proposition exercise, whatever it may be, you need to identify that. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have all the information, that's fine. That's fine. You work with what you have. The key is to get into the habit of doing this so that each time you're doing any type of planning, you become more and more detailed and more proficient, okay? So this is just an example of how you can write your action item. All right, so that's all we have. That's the end of our boot camp. I think I've taken you 5 minutes over, but takeaway, marketing is a process. Focus on value and customer. And please, please, please take the time to do the research, okay? It has been great working with you guys for the past 2 weeks. We have covered a very major discipline in business, and we literally did it in 4 hours. If you add up all the time that is actually presented over the last 2 weeks, we literally only did 4 hours of marketing. So you got all the basics. If you want a one-on-one session, or you guys want to go deeper in another group session, please let us know and we'll make that happen. And here's all my contact information, so we can always stay in touch. And please join us for the next boot camp, which is all about finances. And I think Monica has all those dates. But any questions, any thoughts, I am open. Please let me know what you need. I will stop sharing.
Thank you.
You are
Thank
so
you,
welcome.
thank you. That was helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Monica's going to send out all of the slides, so you don't think you have to memorize everything. You have everything. You'll have everything at your fingertips.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank
Nurse Stokes, I'm looking for whatever you're going to do.
I'm excited. This is a big transition in my life, and this information came at a perfect time.
Great, great. So join us for the finances one.
Oh, definitely.
Because remember, you don't want to do all this and not make a profit. So so we're going to pull everything we've talked about into the actual money part of it.
Thank you. I look
You're
forward
welcome.
to it.
If everyone could drop your emails in the chat, that'd be great. We'll send out the slide deck tomorrow, as well as make the video available for review, or if you wanted to view again. Our next boot camp is coming up in mid-September. It's going to be, you can use the same exact link. And be sure to share. It'll be posted on social media. So look for all the advertisements coming up. And thanks again, everyone, for joining. And we'll see you later in September. Have a good